Damien ruins horror movies. Alright, I'm back with another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. My name is Damien, and we're going to kick off the first month of J.A.S.O.N with another installment from the Friday the 13th franchise. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. This is when they start doing that thing that I hate when horror movies do, is when they stop numbering them and they start just giving them titles, which is really annoying when you're trying to, if you're watching them in order, it's not a big deal, like as they come out, because you know, but if you're going back, it's like, okay, final chapter, which comes first, new beginning or final chapters? I mean, sometimes it's obvious, but like a lot of the Halloween movies are like that, and you're just like, which one? Then you gotta look at least with the internet, you can just look it up and you can see what order they're in. But that's part of the reason why I was buying box sets before the internet was real popular, because it was just like, otherwise I don't know what order these goddamn movies go in. Why can't everybody be like Sylvester Stallone? Sylvester Stallone makes Rocky, it's called Rocky. He makes Rocky 2, it's called Rocky 2. He makes Rocky 3, it's called Rocky 3. See where I'm going? He didn't go, this first one's called Rocky 1, the challenge. Oh, the next movie's Rocky 2, the rematch. Rocky 3, the scary black guy. Rocky 4, the Russian. Rocky 5, the new blood with AIDS. All right, I shouldn't have said that. Point is, you knew. It's like Rocky 1, although people do come up if I'm talking and I'll be like, yeah, Rocky 3 is the best Rocky movie. They're like, oh, is that the one with the Russian? It's like, no, you dumb fuck. It's the one where he fights Mr. T twice. So now let's jump into Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the fourth installment, directed by Joseph Zito. Okay, so I did take the time to look up a little bit of a timeline for this movie, because I think so far I have not been accurately portraying the order of these movies. So I looked it up, and I'm attaching the link below. So just look in the show description, and there'll be a link that you can click on, and it'll have even more information, because it even tells you like when Pamela was born. It even throws in when Freddy Krueger was born, which is, I guess technically he's kind of part of the franchise, because his glove appeared in Jason Goes to Hell, and then he appeared in Freddy vs. Jason. So the first two movies, and I'm not going into details like the opening that year in 1957. I'm talking about just the bulk of the movie. So the bulk of Friday the 13th Part 1 takes place on July 13th, 1979, Friday the 13th. That's when Jason's mom goes to get revenge. And I think it was his birthday, and I know I should know this. I probably said this in other ones. I think it's his birthday and it's the day he died. One or the other, I forget. I'm sorry, bad host. So the first one takes place July 13th, 1979. The second one takes place 2 months later in August. The third one takes place 5 years later in 1984, even though it was made in 1982, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But in 1982, the character Chris, that's when she goes and has her run-in with Jason, when the flashback. So the movie takes place in 84. She remembers back in 82 running into Jason. Then they're back in 84. So now, brings us up to this fourth movie. This fourth movie takes place in 1984, same year it was made, and it takes place immediately after the last movie. So Jason's in the barn, dead, allegedly, and they come and they get him and they put him in the ambulance, and they take him to the morgue. And he somehow comes back to life while Dr. Axel and the nurse are getting it on. They're not really getting it on. He's trying to get it on with her, and she's like kind of like, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah. And somehow, like, I don't know, I think the sexual excitement, the love juices in the air is like smelling salts for Jason, because he comes back and he just kills both of them. And now he's on his way back to Crystal Lake. Why is he going back to Crystal Lake? I don't know. Everybody that was in on your death, not in on your death, everybody that neglected you while you died has been dead, or they're probably dead by now. You've already killed, I don't know. Jason's headed back. And so next we meet the Jarvises. They are staying in a cabin in the woods. His little Tommy, Corey Feldman, and his sister Trish, and his mom, Mrs. Jarvis. I don't think she had a name. And then next door, there are these teenagers. They are driving. They're on their way there, and then they get there, and they're right next door in like this. It's not really a cabin. It's just kind of like a house in the forest. I guess it's a cabin. They arrive. It's 6 late teens, you know, about college age, probably out of high school. There's Doug, Sarah, they're a couple. Paul and Samantha, they're a couple. Jimmy and Teddy, they are not a couple. Jimmy is played by Crispin Glover. I think this is his acting debut, at least on the big screen. So that's the 6 of them. They get to the cabin. So the next day, the group, they take a trip down to Crystal Point. I'm not sure why they're calling that in this movie, because it's Crystal Lake, essentially. They're going and they're talking. Jimmy, Crispin Glover, is obsessed with this girl who rejected him, and his good buddy Teddy, old Teddy Bear, tells him, well, she didn't like you because you're a dead fuck. I don't know if he actually had sex or not, but he calls him a dead fuck probably about 167 times in this movie. And it bothers Crispin when he does it. But they're walking to the lake, or the point, and they run into a set of twins. Is it a pair of twins or a set of twins? 2 twins? Would 2 twins be 2 pairs? I don't know. 2 girls who are twin sisters. And they ask if they know how to get to Crystal Point. And the 2 girls are like, well, hey, that's where we're headed. You can just follow us. It's kind of a long walk, though. They're on bikes. They're all excited because they're like, especially Jimmy and Teddy, because Jimmy and Teddy are the single guys. And they're like, oh wow. Betty who? So they go down to the lake. Sorry, I live in an apartment. Landscapers are outside. Weed whacking. At 5 o'clock. Or whatever time it is. 4:30? Sarah here is going to be a ways, so she's like, alright, I'm going to go back to get the car. And Doug's like, should I go with you? She's like, no. I'm going to go alone. And there's like this POV following her. But the rest of the guys go. It's really weird because they get to the lake and they totally beat Sarah. By like a lot. They get there about the same time as the twins on bikes. No, the twins do get there first though. Because the twins, they have swimsuits on underneath their clothes. So they take off their clothes and they jump in the water in their swimsuits. And once down there we got sirens. Once the group gets there, Paul, Samantha's boyfriend, he's like, all right, let's go for a swim. They're all on their way to go to the lake. And nobody brought any swim gear. So they're like, oh, what are we gonna do? Paul just like takes off all his clothes and jumps in the water. And his girlfriend's like, what are you doing? So then everybody just starts taking off their clothes and jumping in the water. Even the twins, they take off their clothes. It's like, you guys have swimsuits. But it's like, why don't you guys have swimsuits? You go to a cabin on a lake, and your plan is to go to the lake. Didn't you kind of assume like, hey, while we're at the lake, we might want to actually get in the lake? No. They're just like, hey. It's like getting in the lake is a complete afterthought. It's like, oh man, oh shit, that's right. You can swim in the lake, and we didn't bring anything to swim in. No problem. We'll just swim naked. Trish and Tommy Jarvis show up. And, you know, once again, Tommy is like 12. And they pull out, they're like, all right, we're at the lake. And it's just like, uh-oh, it's a bunch of naked, it's our neighbor, a bunch of naked neighbors swimming, and you're 12. And somehow, like, everybody, all the guys in the water, they're like, oh, hey, Trish, you coming in? She's like, no, you can't see my 12-year-old brother with me? Plus, I don't think she was really, she's like Valerie from Summer Party Massacre. The neighbor, though, that was like, well, she actually didn't get invited, but she was like, she's kind of the good, like, even if her brother wasn't there, she wasn't taking off her clothes and getting in the water, you know, because she's the final girl. Oh, but she's a final girl with the female name. There you go. I was just talking about in Cabin in the Woods. Bisexual names for final girls, but I've never met a guy named Trish before. Doesn't mean they don't exist, but also, I'm not trying to say that every final girl has a switchable name or a switchable gendered name. I don't know what those are called. I don't know if those are called bisexual names or not. I'm just saying a lot of them do. And it's a weird coincidence if it's a coincidence. Trish is like, okay, I picked the wrong time to come down to the lake, but Tommy's like, yep, this is the summer I become a man. Fortunately, not the way he expected. Trish is like, get in the car. We're out of here. They take off. They get a little ways away. The car breaks down. Oh man, we're stranded. Tommy, go see what's wrong with the car. So Tommy gets out. He's like, all right, here's the problem. Problem is I need a screwdriver though. She's like, well, I don't have any tools. He's like, it's like, this kid's like 12. He's a fucking mechanic. All right. It's the 80s, man. Kids could do more. It's like, this kid doesn't even have a dad, but he knows how to fix cars? Where do you learn that? That sounds sexist. So then POV comes up, and this is the second time, because Sarah did return to the lake, but there was a POV. We were being led to believe that Sarah wasn't going to make it back, but she does. She's fine. And now there's another POV on old Tommy and his sister Trish, and it turns out it's just Rob. Who's Rob? Good question. Rob is a bear hunter who happens to have everything you could ever want on him. They're like, you got a screwdriver? He's like, oh, let me see what your problem is. Like, you got a screwdriver thing? Yeah, I do. He's got a screwdriver like strapped to his boot. He's like, here. They don't even like specify if it's a Phillips or a flathead. It's like, here's a screwdriver. And so they're like, all right. And they get the car going, and they're like, well, where are you headed? And they take him to their house. And they're like, hey, Mom, look who we met. This guy named Rob. And Corey Feldman, Tommy, is just like, this is my new dad. And he just like grabs him and takes him upstairs. Like, check out these masks I made. I made this mask. And his masks are all like, you know, good enough to be in an 80s horror movie. It's like, they're from Tom Savini's collection. It's like, wow, this kid's 12. He can work on cars. We're going to keep track of all the stuff that Tommy Jarvis can do. He can fix cars. He can make maths. He can make masks that are Hollywood level at that time. God damn it. It's not a weed whacker, it's a leaf blower. Night falls, and back at the other house where the 6 teenagers, the gang is, they're hanging out. They got the twins to come back to the place with them, and their 10-speed bicycles. And Jimmy turns on some music. He's ready to make some moves. He makes a move on Tina, turns on music and says, he asks Tina if she'd like to dance, and she says yeah. And the next 30 seconds is some of the most awkward and just weird, maybe even longer than 30 seconds, attempt at dancing I've ever seen. And poor Crispin Glover, I don't know, I'm sure he improvised this, and this is a legendary scene. I'm not being unique in mentioning this. Any review of this movie you will find will bring up this infamous scene, Because poor Crispin Glover could not predict that there would be YouTube in the future where people could just watch this whenever they want and make GIFs, and this dance would just be a funny part of movie history forever. Back at the Jarvis house, I don't know how long Rob was there, but it's dark. Trish is seeing him off. And then I don't know, did Trish fall in love? Because she's like, okay, see you later. Be safe. Hey, and if you need anything, like if you need to come back and take a shower, you know, come on back. We're here. We're here all night, Rob. All night. Back at the college cabin. I don't know if it's a cabin or house. I'm going to call it the college cabin, okay? Jimmy keeps taking advice from Teddy. And Teddy keeps, like, just kind of mocking him and saying, oh, dead fuck. You're a dead fuck. She's not going to like you. You're a dead fuck. It's like, why are you listening to this guy? Because clearly, if he was your friend, he would say, okay, first of all, never dance in front of a girl or anybody ever again. And second of all, I don't know, anything but dead fuck would be nice, you know, if you're trying to help your friend. You know, just mock him and be like, ugh. Especially because you're not competing over the same girl. Because Teddy's trying to get on Gina, and Jimmy's going for Tina. But then they get done talking, and they go back to the main room where everybody else is, and Gina is hooking up with Paul. Which pisses Teddy off, but it pisses Samantha off even more. She's like, fuck this shit. And she leaves, she goes outside, she's like, I'm gonna go swim. And somehow they're like right next to a body of water, because there's no way she walked to Crystal Point again this quick. And she just like starts taking off her clothes and jumps in the water. And there's like a boat out there. And she swims to it and gets inside of it. And then she hears noises. And she's like, Paul, is that you, Paul? Paul, this isn't funny, Paul. It's not Paul. It's Jason. Finally, it's Jason after like 2 false alarm, false POVs, 2. It's Jason. He kills her. She dead. She in the boat. But then Paul does come out. Cause he's like, I don't know. He's like, no, I feel bad. What am I doing with this Gina girl? Which is a very good question. What was that all about? So he leaves. He goes outside and he sees in the water. He can see that Gina's in the boat. So he's like, all right. He starts taking off his clothes. Then he swims out there. Then he finds out she's dead. He's like, oh shit. He turns around. He swims back to the shore. And he gets up and pulls his pants back on. He's going to go warn the others. But then Jason takes out the harpoon and shoots him right in the peener. And he dies. Back in the house, after Paul has left, Gina starts making a move on Jimmy. Because Jimmy was originally going after Tina. And so Gina's like, hey, you want to go upstairs? And they go upstairs. And so good old Teddy Bear is like, first he's kind of mad, but then he's like, well, there's always Tina. So he goes over, he's like, hey. Teddy looks just like that dude from 10 Things I Hate About You. Okay, so Grizzly Man is camped not too far away. He's in earshot, which is really weird. He left Trish. I mean, not that he got an invite to stay the night or anything, but it's like, he's making it seem like he's gonna, oh no, I gotta go walk, 25 feet that way and set up camp. But he can hear that, so he grabs his machete and he starts to, investigate. But old Grizzly Man thinks he heard something back at his tent because he doesn't really get that far. And he goes back into his tent and he looks and there's the harpoon gun and it's like broken. Jason left him a little present. Back at the old college cabin, Jimmy and Gina are upstairs and they start getting it on while everybody else is downstairs. They found an old projector, so they're watching old black and white movies from like the 20s. But Tina looks at the time and she leaves Teddy. She goes upstairs and knocks on the door and lets Gina know, hey, it's time to go. But Gina says, you go on without me. I'm staying here. She actually kind of likes Jimmy. Sorta. She likes something about Jimmy. The J, the I, the M, the M, the Y is Jimmy. So Tina goes outside, gets on her bike, and kind of mutters to herself. She's like, stupid slut. And I'm not sure, I don't know if she's mad because she has to ride home by herself or because she liked Jimmy, but she didn't, I don't know. It's really weird that Jimmy suddenly, after dancing like that, has two chicks fighting over him that are sisters. But here we are. And she gets on her bike, but Jason gets her before she can go anywhere and like spears her to the side of the house. I don't know how, because he broke his harpoon gun, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure how he stuck her to the house, but she's stuck to the house now. Doug and Sarah get ready for bed. And Mrs. Jarvis gets home she was on a run. And she gets home and all the lights are out. So she's like, what's wrong with the lights? She turns them on, nothing happens. So she goes outside to the box. And that's the last we see of Mrs. Jarvis. But then Tommy and Trish get home. I'm not sure where they were. They go inside, the lights are out. They're like, that's weird, where's Mom? And where are the lights? And so Trish is like, you know what? I'm going to go look for Mom. You fix these lights. Because you're 12 and you know how to do stuff like that. You can fix lights. You can fix cars. You can make masks. You're Corey Feldman. Someday you'll be a guy that sings weird songs to his wife. Or whatever she was. So she leaves. She finds Rob's tent and it's raining. So she's like, well, I'll duck in here for a minute. And then we see the machete come up. And we think it's Jason, but it's not. It's Rob. And he's like, what are you doing in here? And I was like, whoa, what's wrong with you? I thought we were cool. It's not like you don't know who I am. Then we flash on back to old Jimmy, who's gotten done doing the deed with Gina. And Gina's passed out. I thought that was the guy thing to do. But he wakes her up and he's like, hey, was I a dead fuck? And she's all, no, you were incredible. I'm going to go to the bathroom. So she gets up and leaves. And he's like, oh, I was incredible. And he grabs her panties. He takes them down. He takes her panties downstairs and 16 candles them to old Teddy. He's like, yeah, I'm not a dead fuck anymore. Woo! We should celebrate. Get that wine in the fridge. He's like, yeah, man, that's a great idea. So he goes into the kitchen, into the fridge to get there. He's looking for a corkscrew. Like, what did he think she was doing in the bathroom? It's like, did she say, I'm going to go take a shower? Did she say, I'm going to go take a shit? What led you to believe that you have time to prance her panties around the house and have a glass of wine with your buddy while she's like, what do you think she's doing? But then he can't find the corkscrew. But luckily, Jason finds it for him and hands it to him right in the back of his hand. He's like, ah! And then he takes a butcher knife to the head, and now poor Jimmy is dead. But he did get to lose his virginity before he died. Which maybe that's why he died? I don't know. But Jimmy's happy, and his dancing career is now officially over. Gina comes back from the bathroom, and there's no Jimmy. So she's like, where'd Jimmy go? And for some reason, she looks out the window. Like, did Jimmy jump out the window? The window's not open. That'd be weird. So she opens the curtains. And like, oh, that's weird. My sister's bike's out there. All of a sudden crash. Right, and Jason grabs her because he's on the side of the house. What? Okay. He just clung to the side of the house because he knows she's going to look out the window at any moment. And he grabs her and pulls her out. And she flies out of the house and lands on the car that's parked directly under the window, and she dies instantly. And then Jason disappears. So Rob has leveled with Trish and lets her know that he's not really hunting bears. He's hunting Jason. apparently Jason killed his sister Sandra, who I'm pretty sure Sandra is not a character who's been in any of the movies before. They weren't smart enough to tie it in, or maybe they did. I don't know. I think though, that is the premise of the 2009 remake. We have a guy who's looking for his sister because Jason killed or kidnapped her. I forget. I haven't watched that in a while. And so now I'm seeing it's like, oh, they took that from part 4. The remake isn't great, but it is kind of cool how they tie a bunch of stuff, how they grab a little pieces of the first, like, at least the first 2 movies. Well, the first, I don't know. They grab little pieces here. They do a pretty good job. I think if you watch all these in a row and then watch the remake, you'd be like, hey, that's pretty cool. They did a good job in throwing homages to the originals out and kind of, I mean, granted, they're trying to put like a bunch of movies into one package, but still, it's kind of like how, I don't know, what is a good way to do a remake? You know, you don't want to do it word per word like Psycho. You don't want to totally remake it like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, I don't know. It's like, how about just leave it alone? There we go. Stop remaking movies. Write your own shit. Part of Doug and Sarah's getting ready for bed ritual is taking a shower together. So they take a shower together, and, you know, the remaining people downstairs, well, Teddy is watching black and white titties on the old projector, drinking that wine, and he's got some beer, and he's just having a good old time. Until Jason sneaks in and sticks a knife in his head. Sarah gets all done showering before Doug, so she's like, I'm gonna go blow dry my hair. And he says, okay, I'll be out in a minute. So she leaves. I don't know why she's not blow drying her hair in the bathroom with him. I'm gonna go blow dry my hair in the kitchen. In the other bathroom. I'm gonna, like, what are you really going to do, you fucking weirdo? So while she's gone, Jason comes in, and he slams Doug's head into the shower wall and breaks his face. Then Sarah comes back in and discovers his corpse and catches a knife through the chest. Meanwhile, next door at the Jarvis's, Rob and Trish come back home, and the door's locked. So it's got, you know, the glass panes on the door. So it's locked. So instead of having a key or knocking or anything, they just immediately break the bottom pane close to the doorknob and twist the handle open and run in, and they see that Tommy has got the lights back on because he's a little electrician, you know, like most 12-year-old boys. But Jason has beat them back and has killed the phone. So Trish and Rob decide we better go next door and see if the phone works over there. Tommy, you stay here and lock the door, which is funny because it's the same door. They just broke the fucking glass so they could reach in and open it. So how are they supposed to lock it? Why does she keep leaving Tommy alone? He's 12. Like, they even took the dog, Gordon, with them. But they leave Tommy. Hey, Tommy, you stay here. See if you can get the phones working or something. Like, poor Tommy. So as soon as they leave, Tommy starts going through Rob's shit because he left his bag of stuff, and there's all kinds of newspaper clippings and information about Jason and Crystal Lake. Of course, you know, because Rob's hunting Jason. Tommy had no knowledge of it. This is actually the first movie in the series where they don't give you any. This is as close to backstory on Jason as we get as these newspaper clippings. Whereas in the first one, you got backstory from Mrs. Voorhees. She came in and explained all the stuff that happened with Jason and why she was there killing. And then in the second one, they were kind of putting together, it's like, oh, he must have been out there and he probably saw his mom get her head chopped off. He was out there watching the whole thing. But there's little things where they build Jason up a little bit. This movie, they don't build him up at all. The newspaper clippings don't tell you anything new. They don't put any, like, extra dimension to Jason. Jason's just killing people still. Trish and Rob go in the college cabin, and she goes up, he goes down, because there's a basement as well as a second floor. Trish finds Doug's body, And what the hell did Jason have against Doug? I mean, first he smashed his head in, then the next time you see him, he's got his throat slit like through the door of the shower, the glass, his head's like down where the glass is like coming up through his throat. Now she's finding him and he's like harpooned to the wall somehow because the harpoon gun's broken. And in the tent. Well, like, every time somebody comes in this room, Doug's in a different position. But that does give her the confirmation that Jason's here because I found a dead body. I'm going to go to the basement where Rob is and let him know. But it's too late because Jason's already down there and he's attacking Rob, and Rob is basically defensive. Like, Rob, what was your fucking plan? You've been plotting this for how long? You got like MacGyver's tools and weapons and shit in a tent and you're camping out. But now that you see Jason, you're like, oh no, you're just getting attacked by him? And Trish isn't any better. She's got a machete and she's just standing there staring like, which I'd probably do the same thing. I'd be like, what the fuck? I can't believe this is happening. This can't be happening. This is not really happening. They're not really. That would be weird. Granted, it's weird that Trisha does that, but I don't blame her because this is like new. She's processing new information where there's like, okay, there's a guy. I think you're probably imagining things. You're in denial and you're having a hard time, dealing with your sister's death, so you make up shit. But then it's like, oh wow, it just materialized. I need a second. And she's just like, and poor Rob dies. So Trish finally decides it's time to make a run for it, and she bolts. But Jason's been busy. All the doors are blocked with corpses in front of him. It's like, I don't know when he found time to do it, but he did it. Put a corpse here, corpse there. You open that door, there's a corpse. So she runs back upstairs, and she's forced to jump out the window. Sally style from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, or when she opened the front door, she could have just stepped over the corpse. That's what I would have done. I would have just, corpses are creepy and gross, I guess, but you step over, you even hop over it. It wouldn't take much. She runs back to the cabin where Tommy is, and it says like, oh shit, we gotta hide, and they start bolting all the doors shut, but there's like huge windows all throughout the cabin. So they're bolting everything up, and then all of a sudden one of the windows just breaks open as Rob's corpse flies through. And they're like, oh, and they're staring at that window. Meanwhile, Tommy has his back to a window while he's looking at the corpse, and then that breaks. And it's funny because I was watching a thing and it was showing like Corey Feldman in real life. It was like in a making of Corey Feldman in real life. Somehow he like didn't know that was going to happen, or I don't know, but it's like when you see the fear on his face, that's real, because that scared the shit out of him when it happened. It's because it crashed. He's just like, oh shit. Like, that's all, like, I forget. He didn't know it was going to happen, or he wasn't expecting. That's kind of funny. Fun fact. Yo. So Trish is holding a hammer, so she just started beating Jason with the hammer a bunch. And it's a claw hammer, so she's using the blunt end, but then she gets smart and turns it and like hits him right there. Is that the jugular right there? I don't think she hit him in the jugular because I don't know if it matters if you hit him in the jugular or not. He's not gonna die. So she hits him right there, and it stops him. So they're like, let's run upstairs. Don't run upstairs. Go outside. Get in the car. They run upstairs. They shut the door. They put a bookcase in front of it, mostly in front of it, but there's a little hole. Jason gets up there and he starts like breaking through the door where the bookshelf isn't and reaches in. So Trish slams a TV over his head, one of those old 1984 TVs. He manages to get in anyway. And so she kind of lures him, and she gets him to chase her back to the college cabin where he chases her inside. And she goes back upstairs, and then she jumps out another window from the second level, because apparently jumping out a window on the second floor, totally safe. But if he throws you out and you land on a car, that kills you instantly. Totally different thing. But you can jump out as many times as you want. You're fine. She won't even get a limp from that. She runs back home, and she finds the machete, and Jason is still chasing her. And so she starts attacking with that. Meanwhile, little Tommy Jarvis is up in the bathroom shaving his head, giving himself a little quarantine cut like I did on Friday night. Woo! And he dresses himself up like little baby Jason. Not baby Jason, but you know, little Lake Jason, the famous Jason. Canoe slasher Jason. Which I don't know how he knew what that looked like, because newspaper clippings, I don't think, had pictures of him doing that. But he goes downstairs and Jason looks at him, and that distracts him enough that Trish is able to crack him in the head with the machete, which knocks off his mask, revealing his hideously deformed face, which they were not quite ready for. She drops the machete in the process, so Tommy picks it up and hacks him, and he like hacks him right there, like kind of like through his eye, and then he lets go of it, and does that classic like where he falls, and the way he falls, you can see the machete blade like slide up his face. And even though like the technology back then was like nowhere near it is now, that kill scene is still cringy, where you're just like, the way it slides in there, you can still feel it, even though it's like not anything near what today looks like. It's the practical effects and it's good, but the way it slides up there, you watch it, you're just like, God. It's pretty awesome. Like it holds up, even though it's fake as hell, but you can feel it. But still, that doesn't kill him. So then Tommy just loses his shit and just starts hitting him in the back with the machete. Which, you know, you got a 12-year-old hitting you with a machete. What? It's gonna take a while, and it does. And then Trish wakes up in the hospital, like most girls do at the end of these movies. Most final girls. They wake up and they're like, well, what happened? They're usually talking to a doctor or a cop or both. And they can't get any goddamn answers about Jason. She say, well, what happened to Jason? And they won't tell her. Like, well, where's my brother? What happened? They're like, oh, they're fine. It's like, we're kind of worried about your brother. Well, is he here? Can I see him? And they let Tommy in. They hug, and then it zooms in on Tommy's face. And he pulls this creepy grin. And then it freeze frames. And that's the end of the movie, kind of alluding to like, now Tommy has become Jason. Like somehow killing Jason has put Jason's soul into Tommy. Even though they call this the final chapter. But it's like, we're going to call it the final something and still leave room for a sequel. Assholes. But I think one thing we have learned from the Friday the 13th movies is that Jason must be kind of gullible, because it's like, okay, they basically said that he saw his mom get her head chopped off. Yet, all you gotta do is have blonde hair, you put his mom's sweater on, he's like, oh, Mom? No, you dummy, you already know she's dead. And then in this one, Tommy, it's like, I'm gonna shave my head and like make myself look like young Jason. And Jason sees him come downstairs, he's like, oh, me? No, you dummy. You dumb fucking dummy. That's not you. Doesn't make any sense. But he does get around a lot in this movie. For not being able to disappear and reappear yet, he gets from 1 minute he's in the kitchen, then he's on the side of the house, then he's at the neighbor's house, then he's back in time to be there. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy things come along. I'm thinking about doing a Friday the 13th for every month of Jason. And by month of Jason, I mean, obviously, July, August, September, October, November. So, I don't know. Because I think that's exactly how many months it would take to finish this franchise. Not including the remake, though. But that's all for now. The Badass Award goes to little Tommy for taking care of business at the young age of 12. He was kind of like Mikey from Phantasm, but even younger. And in the end, he whacked Jason in the head with a machete, causing that electric skull slide, and then he hacked him in the back over and over again. And spoiler alert, Tommy doesn't turn bad in later sequels. What did we learn? Survival tips! Don't try to have sex in a morgue. Don't hitchhike. That word never looks right when I write it out. And don't go out skinny dipping alone at night. If you enjoyed this episode, then buckle up, little brother, because we got 4 more months left of J.A.S.O.N. And we're going to do one each time. So like, subscribe, share it with your friends so we can do this.